here we have today we have Mark David Teo. Um, you are currently a Brainstorm student, that kind of thing, right? So why don't
Yep.
you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, what you're doing?
Okay, cool. Hi, my name is Mark David Teo. I'm currently a Brainstorm student. Sometimes I do some freelance. Sometimes I'm a student at CDA as well. I definitely just study online and go to schools that I can learn the information from, regardless of what school that is. Yep.
Yeah, and I've seen you've gone to a very wide variety of schools as well.
Yeah, I pretty much done classes at most. Okay, I used to be able to say most of them, but there's a lot of been springing up lately. So, I funded the schoolism Kickstarter back in
No freaking
2000,
way.
whatever. I took physical classes at Brainstorm in 2016, back when they were in person. Physical classes at CDA, taken online classes at CGMA. I've done some stuff at Learn Squared. I've really gone through to a few places, yeah.
Man, you're like a veteran of some kind, like in the concept art like education system. That's really cool. How's that?
Mhm.
I think been for you just trying out all those different I don't know experiences and things,
Yeah,
seeing like
it's
what
good.
works for you and all.
I guess because I've done it for a while now, it's really nice to know that when I do a class, I do it because I actually want to do the class and not necessarily to tick off a unit in order to get a credit number, in order to get a degree, to get a specific thing. It's very much skills based, and I think there's some kind of truth to that that really appeals to me. There isn't a concept art industry here, and even within all of Australia, the opportunities are quite limited and the amount of people teaching is quite limited. And so when these schools go online, it gives me the opportunity to study these things that I actually want to study. Yep.
That makes sense. What got you started in just studying entertainment design?
I really like studying entertainment design because when I was a student in architecture, I wanted to visualize ideas and I didn't have the tool set to be able to do so. I would see videos on the internet of people just sketching out like what they wanted to do or painting out what they wanted to do. And in architecture, all I could do was I could do rough sketch and then 3D model, and it felt like something was missing. So I wanted to look for that missing piece. And I think for me, it was learning the fundamentals of art that really started to help me bridge that.
What did that missing piece end up being for you?
Well, the missing piece is actually a little bit of a lie because
Hmm.
uh, in the end, the thing that I want to do is pretty much going back to the 3D. But it was nice to take the journey and see what you can do with painting. And so if the 3D image isn't perfect, it's good for me to understand principles of like color and light and how objects interact to be able to fix the 3D in post, um, or or I guess have the freedom to freestyle and paint on top of a photo or on top of a 3D image. Yeah, which before starting entertainment I couldn't do within just normal architecture. I would cut out people and then put them in, and I moved the hue sliders around, but something was missing. I would move it around until it felt right, but I wanted to know why something would feel right. And I think the foundation parts of art really helped me to understand that more.
Makes sense. Were there any courses that I think helped you with those I guess those fundamental aspects the most? I guess in that early kind of starting stages? Like how did you approach the that experience in delving into entertainment design at first?
Yeah, I think it's definitely more than one course. It feels that one course, some courses are really targeted and some courses are more broad. And I actually felt I got the most from courses that were targeted. I really liked John Park's Flash class with his fantasy painting or landscape painting because his process is really, really solid. And that type of process starts to become repeatable to me. And although it didn't necessarily help my color matching, it did give me a way to make paintings. And so from the idea of, okay, this is a method to make paintings, how do I understand color and light a little more? Uh, Fundamental ideas of like just going outside and painting and looking at more traditional artists, I felt had the answers for that kind of mentality. Yeah.
Yeah, like you're gathering these little kind of
Yeah,
bits and
it's
these
like I
connect
get a
towards
piece of knowledge
something.
here and a piece of knowledge here, and I can like start to strand them together. Yeah, yeah.
That makes sense. What's the goal for you? What does that look like?
I think the goal for me right now is I'm making this personal project and I want to develop the world and see how that goes. Yeah, I really want to just keep pushing the world, keep developing the lore, keep developing the places, the environments. My characters are kind of weak, and I sh I could push it, but at this point, I don't think it's necessarily the thing that I love the most. And I think architectural props are what I definitely gravitate towards. And I think I'm just making more of that stuff and gonna put it in my portfolio and yeah, that's what I'm looking at doing.
Would you like to talk a little more about your project? Like what are you doing? That sounds exciting. What kind
It's
of world are you building?
yeah, I feel like I know growing up when I was younger, I played a lot of video games. And as I got older, I cut the video games so I can do more work. And as I get older and older, I was like, man, I should go back and play those video games. But it wasn't like that. It's like it was a very, it's kind of hard to go back and to let go of trying to be productive all the time when that's something that I kind of drilled into myself. And then when I started playing video games again, if I forced it, I would play what's trending on the market. And I
Hmm.
realized that what's trending on the market isn't necessarily the games that I wanted to play. For example, uh, a lot of super hyper realistic games aren't necessarily what I like, and a lot of super stylized games aren't what I like either. When I let go a little more, I was like, oh, I actually, and although these are massive games, I actually really like MMORPGs, but within the world of entertainment art, I feel that a lot of people um, focus more on AAA single player experiences. And it was nice to be like, oh yeah, I actually like MMORPGs. I'm gonna make some like art that is, I guess, more towards that realm. Uh, yeah. So my personal project it's like a fantasy based. In my mind, it's an MMO, but it's more about making the world, and it's a little bit of like World of Warcraft meets Lord of the Rings, and
Hey,
kind of in the style of like the Horizon Forbidden West. Yeah.
that's so cool. Wow. So what games have influenced your project? Have those in particular, would you say, or kind of like
Yeah, those
media
have
parts?
influenced me a lot. The thing is, I never really played much of those games that I listed, and they're very new to me. The games that I
Hmm.
played when I was growing up look really, really bad. And
Which
nowadays,
ones?
I played this game called like Moo Online, which was a Diablo clone. But the main driving factor between all the games that I played when I was younger was that they were free. And I think in a lot of free games, the quality sometimes it's there, but before the microtransaction model was really set in place, they weren't necessarily mainstream. Um, I used to play this game. The biggest one I played was called Guns Online, where the original game was you're supposed to
That
play it
sounds
like that,
awesome.
but the users found out a lot of bugs, and so they play it like why. And the reason why it's become balanced is because in order to play the game, you have to learn all the bugs, and then the bugs is like the new meta way of playing. And you memorize all these like buttons you press in quick succession in order to just become average. And as the game is developing, or the top players, you're developing like these new techniques which are derived from understanding the game's fundamental bugs and what overrides what. So for example, attacking and blocking, and you can block as soon as you attack after like the first 20 frames, so you don't need to wait for the 3 second or 2 second animation for the attack. And now everyone's attack blocking really fast. Now everyone's in jumping and dashing and attacking and blocking, and it continues on and on. And when we make guilds, we have like our own secret techniques that are passed down because someone figured it out. And having this player base is really cool. And but this game is fundamentally flawed and like totally doesn't exist anymore.
Oh
No, yeah.
yeah. That makes sense. Well, I'm sure like the community really made it in that case, right?
Yeah, it
A game
definitely
like
did.
that.
Before Discord, before actually, I think Skype was around. There was a thing called Xfire, and we would hop on. It's essentially the similar. It's similar to something called Ventrilo, which was the mainstream at the time, and Xfire was a in-game overlay where we could talk just on video call while playing the game, and that was the greatest thing. And before Discord, it didn't. When Xfire closed, before Discord opens, there was a giant gap that people didn't necessarily have a place. And I mean, I think the gap people there were apps, but it wasn't super trending as big as before. So it's really nice to see Discord come back. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And that's kind of interesting that you say that. I mean, I do feel like in a lot of ways, like Discord has, I think it's very unique in the sense of like, you can create this online sort of community. It's sort of this hub for all online communication. How do you think you've used Discord in a way for maybe art or meeting people, um, and then meeting other students and things through Discord? How does that online sort of experience been for you?
Yeah. Discord, to clarify, I don't think is a replacement for real life. I
Mm.
think it's more of a add-on or like it's just an additional way in which to contact people. So I know people in real life, and I also talk to them on Discord. And the interactions we have, while they're the same person, can be different because it's a different medium. And it's quite nice that in Discord you can be in a room casually working with other people, whereas in real life it becomes a bit more harder to set up going to, let's say, a library um, or a public space for that same environment. Uh, it's just a different feel, and I think it's also nice that with this public library of Discord, of a server with many people, the inhabitants of the server aren't necessarily limited to the geographical space, and it can come from far and wide. And so uh, I know this guy called Gabe, and he's from Bermuda, I think. And I don't even know this is a place that exists. And having this guy tell me his stories of how in his backyard he can jump into the ocean or the river. I'm pretty sure it's the ocean is crazy in my mind, and it's a nice experience and increases my worldview to some extent.
That makes sense. How was like the so you've taken like in-person classes versus
Yep,
like online like art classes. How was
yep.
the what have the differences been like for you in terms of like maybe the learning experience or even the community experience?
hmm hmm I do think the rate of learning is faster through real life. Um, Not necessarily because of the teacher, but because of the people. And after class, you can get dinner together or something, or hang out before class. Sometimes there's traffic, so sometimes people won't even go home in between class and hang around for 4 hours, and you can just chill out. Though at the same time, uh, in online, there is much more flexibility. And so I've been in classes as I've been traveling from in Australia to going to Switzerland, going to Austria, and I'm still in the same class, and nothing's changed. I still do the work, I still take the lectures, but that type of flexibility wasn't available before. And so there's pros and cons for both, and I think it's a different experience entirely. But the biggest factor for me, which I've said before, is that online classes allow me and give me the opportunity to take these classes. Because in the primary concern is, am I even able to learn and do and get this education and without the online platform? The answer is no.
In that case, well, what would you describe yourself as currently? Like,
Student.
I guess your
In
title,
my mind,
student.
I conceptualize myself as a student. Sometimes I do freelance, but I conceptualize myself as a student, and the majority of my time spending trying to get better.
I feel that I'm a professional student.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Well, okay, in that case, do you still I think on your art station it's like visual development artist slash I think environment artist, I believe, or
Yeah, I can't 100% recall what I have written there. Maybe I should change it to clarify. Although at the same time, when I look at other people's, I never truly look at the title that they have. I look at the art.
that's fair. That's fair. Well, do you know what you want to do? Like, what is your, do you have like an end goal as far as
Yeah.
a career
At the
path?
moment, I'm training to be a concept artist at a studio that does cool architectural stuff. And not necessarily architecture, but like props, like things. And the 100% ideal would be like fantasy props, cultural, and props including buildings. Yep,
Hmm,
environments. But I actually enjoy props more than environments, I think, but they're definitely connected. Everything is connected, making an image.
that makes sense. Well, what brainstorm classes are you taking right now?
Right now, I am taking Domlay's Value and Light class. In
Hmm.
my mind, Domlay's watercolor class, and then PD, E&V, portfolio development environments with James Pake.
Hmm. Oh wow. How are those going so far? I know
Yeah,
it's like super early in the term, but
it's quite early in the term. We're 2 weeks in. Both classes are great. Uh, they are what I thought they would be. Yeah,
nice,
exactly.
nice. What if so I think for like portfolio develop environment, right? I think do you come up with your own sort of direction and path? How does that work within the class?
Yeah, I think James Pake has given everyone a brief, and then we follow the brief. But the brief is a redesign of Aliens, I think it is. But I honestly think that the idea of the brief is not to necessarily follow it to a T. It's to make sure students have a direction because as a teacher, we don't want to spend half the term finding the direction and then another half the term finishing the direction. We want to start with the direction, have half the term planning, research, designing, and the other half finishing. Or at least, yeah, it removes a whole segment of that part. And so, yeah, the class is going great. We're at week 2 and making some designs.
Nice, nice. Well, what do you think about the to kind of I think talk about brainstorm a little bit too? How have you felt like the online experience has been with brainstorm for you, I
Yeah, the
suppose?
online experience has been great. I register through Store Envy, I get a Discord invite in my email, and then there's a GoToMeeting link in the hashtag class link channel, and I click that every week.
Pretty standard, you know?
Yeah,
Good stuff.
that's that's the experience.
That makes sense. I know in one of your videos you talked about all of the different I think online schools and things, right?
Yeah,
And I think the conclusion was essentially like, oh, they're all pretty much the same except like I think like teachers, right? It was just kind
yeah.
of you choose certain teachers from the school. Are there certain teachers that you come back to the most within Brainstorm?
Yeah, actually, I would love to take more classes from John Park in general. He always has such a good process. Yeah, it's really solid. He's done this a lot more than like a few
You,
times.
you hear that Brainstorm? Bring John Park back.
Yeah.
We want more John classes.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I wish James Blake was still doing like a photo batchy class. Would totally want to take that one. I missed out. He was doing a speed painting class, but I wasn't ready when he was teaching that. Um, yeah, uh, within Brainstorm, great. June on, I really love his
Mm,
process for like making cool stuff. He really thinks things through, and he doesn't want any like necessarily problems. And it was really interesting for him to make do a painting halfway through the painting, make a 3D model, not to paint on top of the 3D model, but to use the 3D model as reference. And it's like ideas like this, like, wow, this is really cool. He's like doesn't want to take any chances, just do the thing, make sure it's correct, and when he finishes, it's correct and it's good.
that makes sense. What has been, I think, the most valuable thing you've learned in a class like that?
Process.
Process.
I think classes can teach fundamentals, but ultimately fundamentals are gained through ideas and a lot of mileage. I hate saying that word, but ideas and executing and getting feedback on the execution. But having a really strong process can be taught and repeated because you do the process and you get a result and it's a consistent way. So you get better either at the process or you get better at doing things inside the process. And it's a way of isolating the variables. In one of John Park's ways of painting, he isolates values from the color, and it's a very standard thing to do. But the way he does it, it's more separated, and it it leads one to be able to really refine the actual composition and base foundation of the painting. Um, yeah, and I like that.
That's really cool. Thank you. Okay, well, if you were to speak to Mark from the past,
Oh, okay.
starting as a student in art, right?
Okay.
Um, are there any bits of advice you'd give him or anything?
Yeah. Actually, look at art that you like and not what people tell you is good. Look at art people tell you is good too, but follow art that you like because that's your taste and that's what you love, and you want to do art that you love.
That makes sense. Great. Well, thank you. And I guess to wrap up, or is there anything you'd like to say to the audience? Anything to promote? You can do it in this space here, whatever you'd like.
Yeah. I'd just like to say, oh, Daha is a great
Ah,
support staff.
thank you, thank you. Mark is a phenomenal student. You have amazing work.
Thank you, lady.
Heck yeah, heck yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much, Mark. Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you so much
time.
for your time.
Much
Yeah.
appreciated, man. Heck yeah. Okay, well, I'll end the recording. Okay, thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.